Good day, everyone. I am Missy Imbudo. I am here to recall the Week 4 Unit 2 Developmental Theories. First is the Sigmund Freud psychosexual theory. Psychosexual theory called as the psychosexual stages because each stage represents the fixation of libido. Libido roughly translated as sexual drives or instincts, and that all came from its discharge. Freud used the term sexual in a very general way to mean all pleasurable actions and thoughts. Next is the three components and personality adjustment. First, the ID, which exists from birth and is most prominent in the newborn baby, is the most subconscious part. Second, the ego is the rational conscious part. And the third is the superego, can be thought of something like the conscience. We also have here the rule of conflict. Each of the psychosexual stages is associated with a particular conflict that must resolve before the individual can successfully advance the next stage. To explain, this Freud suggested that the analogy of military troops on the march, the troops advance, they are met by opposition or conflict. Next is the frustration, overindulgence, and fixation. Some people do not seem to be able to leave one stage and proceed on to the next. One reason for this may be that the needs of the developing individual at any particular stage may not have been adequately met, in which case there is frustration. Fixation refers to the theoretical notion that a portion of the individuals. Next is the psychosexual stages of development. You can remember the order of this stage by using the mnemonic, which old is called as oral, age as anal, pensioners as phallic, love as Latin, and graves is genital. The first stage is the anal stage, which has consist to 1 to 3 years. The libido now becomes focused on the anus, and the child derives great pleasure from defecating. The second stage is the oral stage, 0 to 1 year. In the first stage of personality development, the libido is centered in the baby's mouth. It gets more satisfaction from putting all sorts of things in its mouth to satisfy the libido and eats. And the third stage is the phallic stage, which consists 3 to 5 or 6 years. Sensitivity now becomes concentrated in the genitals, and masturbation in both sexes becomes a new source of pleasure. Freud called the Oedipus complex in boys and the Electra complex in girls. Oedipus complex is the most important aspect of the phallic stage is Oedipus complex. This is one of the Freud's most controversial ideas and one that many people reject outright. Identifications. Identification means internally adopting the values, attitudes, and behaviors of another person. The Electra complex. For girls, the Oedipus or Electra complex is the less than satisfactory. Briefly, the girl desires the father but realizes that she does not have a penis. This leads to the development of penis in Vi and the wish to be a boy. The next stage is the latency stage, which consists 5 or 6 to puberty. No further psychosexual development takes place during this stage. Latent means hidden. The libido is dormant. And the last stage is the genital stage, puberty to adult. This is the last stage of Freud's psychosexual theory of the personality development and begins in puberty. For the week 5, Unit 2 Development Theories and Other Relevant Theories. In week 5, we have the Piaget stage of cognitive development. For 60 years, Jean Piaget conducted research on cognitive development. The method of his research involved a small number of individuals as they responded to the cognitive tasks that he designed. These tasks were later known as Piagetian tasks. This also includes the basic cognitive concepts. First is the schema. Piaget used the term schema to refer cognitive structure by which individuals intellectually adapt to and organize their environment. Second is the assimilation. This is the process of fitting new experience into an existing or previously created cognitive structure or schema. Third is the accommodation. This is the process of creating a new schema. And the last is the equilibration. Piaget believed that the people have a natural need to understand how the world works and to find order, structure, and predictability in their life. When your experience do not match our schema or cognitive structure, we experience cognitive disequilibrium. We also have Piaget's stages of cognitive development. The first stage is the sensory motor stage. The first stage corresponds from birth to infancy. This first stage, when a child who is initially reflexive is grasping, sucking, and reaching, becomes more organized in his movement and activity. In stage 2, we have pre-operation stage. The pre-operationals cover from about 2 to 7 years old, roughly corresponding to the preschool years, which include symbolic function, egocentrism, centration, inversible, animism, transitive reasoning. In stage 3, we have concrete operational stage. This stage is characterized by the ability of the child to think logically but only in terms of concrete objects, which includes decentering, reversibility, conversation, and dissociation. In stage 4, we have formal operational stage. In this final stage of format operations covering ages between 12 and 15 years, thinking becomes more logical. They can now solve abstract problems and can hypothesize. This includes the hypothetical reasoning, analogical reasoning, and the deductive reasoning. And for the week 6, we tackled about the Erik Erikson psychosocial theory of development. Erik Erikson was a German-born analyst who learned not only from Freud's work, but also from his study of sloths in Yurok Indians in the United States, where he spent much of his adult life as a teacher and a clinical practitioner. 8 stages described by Erikson. The first stage is the trust versus mistrust from birth to 12 months. Second stage is the autonomy versus shame from 1 to 3 years. Third is the initiative versus guilt from 3 to 6 years. Fourth, industry versus inferiority from 6 to 12 years. And fifth, identify and rule on confusions 12 to 18 years. Intimacy versus isolation, young adulthood. The seventh stage is the generativity versus stagnation, middle adulthood, and the last stage is the integrity versus despair from late adulthood. And that would be all my week 4 and 6 summarization. Thank you for watching and have a great day.